This pair of English holster pistols descended in a remarkable local family here in southeastern Pennsylvania of German descent, the Muhlenbergs. John Peter Gabriel Muhlenberg, at the beginning of the American Revolution, was a minister in what's now Woodstock, Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley. But he'd been born up here close to Philadelphia to a man, Henry Muhlenberg, who was the father of the Lutheran Church in America and a very prominent family in the German-American community in the middle colonies, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia. At the outbreak of the American Revolution, Peter Muhlenberg was a very ardent patriot. He participated in many of the early protests against British taxation and British policies in America. And in 1776 was given a commission to raise a regiment of German Americans, the 8th Virginia, or German Regiment, to be raised out in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. And there's a remarkable story about Peter Muhlenberg's recruiting tactics that were first recorded in a book by a descendant of his in this Life of General Muhlenberg that was published in the 1840s. And in this book, the story was recorded that Muhlenberg, in January of 1776, was preaching from the pulpit. It was to be a sort of farewell sermon because he was going off to lead a regiment in the Continental Army. And so many of his congregations in the area had all gathered for this sermon. He took as his text for that day Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 8, which is familiar to many people, beginning to everything there is a season. And as he got to the 8th verse, which begins there, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for peace and a time for war, as the story goes, he removed his clerical robes, his black clerical robes, revealing his colonel's uniform underneath, and finished with, and now it is a time for war, and immediately raised 300 men to go off and serve in the Continental Army. So this pair of pistols, which descended in the Muhlenberg family here in southeastern Pennsylvania into the 20th century, were carried all through the Revolution by Muhlenberg. They have his initials inscribed on the escutcheon or thumb piece on the pistols, PM for Peter Muhlenberg, and have remarkable history recorded in this family history of his service, including their use in the Battle of Germantown in 1777 near Philadelphia, where Muhlenberg nearly lost his life to fire from a British regiment nearby, and used these pistols in the business of war to allow his regiment to retreat.